Hey everyone, welcome to Gamers MediaWire Case Benchmarking Episode 1. Today we're going to be benchmarking the APEVIA Case X-QBER, and that'll come in variants of black with red, green, or I think blue, or a white case with black accents. Either way, as you can see here, I've built built a computer in this case already. So now we're going to talk about the case by itself. Now, in these videos, what we're going to do is going to break down each, thing in a category, and we're going to rank it from 0 to 5 in increments of half points. This will give us, at the end, an actual score, which is kind of like a benchmark. So that's why we're going to call this case benchmarking. I think that'll make it kind of interesting and, maybe keep a little competition going between cases. You never know. So, the categories are going to be cosmetics, cooling, expandability, and extras. So, from that point, we'll explain each category when we get to it, and let's begin the show. So, on a cosmetic standpoint, which is also going to be considering style and design, we would like to give it a 3. That is because, as a case itself, we think it looks pretty good. It's a cube-style case, takes a micro ATX motherboard, or a mini ITX, of course. We think it looks pretty good. It's got nice accent pieces, and the design of it is actually fairly good. It's easy to build, and as you can see, it opens up like a clamshell almost. So building it actually is pretty pleasant. I enjoyed it. Style also kind of falls into that, looks good category. Back on design, though, as you'll see later in the video, and I'll point it out, there's no real good place to put wiring. When you're done doing all your cable management, normally you can get that tucked behind the panel that doesn't matter, which is normally the back panel. This case doesn't really have a back or a front because of the orientation of the motherboard. So while you're doing the cable management, you're going, well, how do I put these cables? Where do I put them, And you'll see that later, like I said. So because of that reason, we kind of docked it a few points, but it got a 3. We agreed it was a 3, and I think that's a fair number because it is a unique looking case. It's a unique design. We don't see cases with the motherboard orientation going down like that when most of the time they're standing up straight. I don't know. I kind of like it. So, either way. Category 2 is cooling, and that would imply all sorts of types of cooling. Let's talk about air cooling, or airflow, first. Now, it comes with 2 fans, a rear exhaust fan, just basic black, boring fan. The front is a 200 millimeter, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And it is a red LED fan because this is a black with red accent. Now, we added one more 120 mil to the top. So, it does have a little more airflow than it comes stock, which I'm talking about there, as you can see. But because it's a more open, air to cube, like I said, it allows a lot of good airflow in the case. And I think when you have airflow coming in and it kind of can get above the CPU and under the CPU and alongside the GPU, it's pretty good. The only thing I wouldn't like to see is some type of ventilation on the side the graphics card sits on. It doesn't really have any ventilation there, so the graphics card has to rely on that big 200 mil to get air to that side of the case, so that way it could get clean and cold air. So, like I said, for airflow, I actually think it's a pretty good design. For liquid cooling or any kind of AIO, I don't see that really being a good design. You only can fit 120 millimeter radiators, so if you wanted to do a 120 AIO, that'd be okay. But anything else is out. A 240 and up is out. Doing custom liquid cooling is out. I don't see it really being a possibility. So, because of that reason, like I say, airflow's good, but anything else is kind of flawed. We give it a 2. Now, it could have gone higher if it would have had some more support for liquid cooling, because we do a lot of liquid cooling on this channel. I try to do most of my stuff, at least with an AIO. Luckily, our AMD chips don't run too hot, so this cooler actually... But, move on to the next category. The next category is expandability. Now, we pretty much look at just simply how many hard drives, if anything else can be added in, how many PCI slots it has, etc. Let's talk about PCI slots first on that note. It only has 4, so a lot of your mini or micro ATX boards will have, especially the high-end ones, will have 2 PCI 16X slots. One's probably an 8X slot, but the idea is that you can add 2 cards to do SLI, but most of them, the bottom slot is the other 16X slots. So that would mean that you need to have 5 PCI slots in the case to, have the ability to actually do SLI. So we lose some points there because, for a case that, you're going to have an enthusiast building. And now this isn't a very expensive case. I think it retails for around $50. It's not a very high-end case. So it wouldn't be considered an enthusiast case, but it has features that I would say is like enthusiast, like dual side panel or dual clear side panels and this clamshell design. I'd say that's pretty enthusiast. But it only has 4 PCI lanes, so I think it wouldn't have taken much to add that, another inch in one direction. That doesn't seem, And also, it only really has 2 hard drive caddies that can fit either the small 2.5-inch SSDs or hard drives or the bigger 3.5-inch standard drives. But it only has 2. I'd like to see a good case have at least 4, because maybe you want to have one RAID set up for gaming or whatever the case may be. So yeah. For that, we're going to give it or for expandability, we're going to give it a 2. I think that's a fair number, and I don't see the need to give anything higher than that. Doesn't, it doesn't really win. And as you can see, that 1070 barely fits in there, so you got to be careful what kind of cards you buy and put in there. Also, at the bottom, you can see that where the power supply is going to go, which goes under the motherboard tray, isn't a lot of room, so any kind of larger PSUs, like your 1,000 watts or your 1,200 watts, might have a hard time fitting. Your mileage may vary more or less, but either way, I'd say that there's always room for improvement in case manufacturers, I would say. And it wouldn't have taken much to add some more expandability there, especially the PCI slot. Nowadays, I think every good micro ATX should come with 5. You just never know what they're going to do with it. That's my opinion, but I'm going to stick to my guns. The last category is extras. Now, extras is pretty much just anything extra the case manufacturer goes above and beyond to do. And like including fans would be one of those things, So if it gets a couple fans in there, even if they're not great, APEVIA fans are known to be kind of cheap. My first case actually was an APEVIA, believe it or not, years ago. Built it in probably 2008 or 2009. I'm pretty sure it had a Core 2 Duo in it. Either way, though. So they've been around for a while. They make colorful cases, I like to say. Not the best quality, but colorful. So yeah, extras. Let's talk about that. It really has no extras. Besides actually having caddy, like actual drive caddies and not just a plate to mount it to, I don't really think it, that the dual has a dual clear windows. It came with the big fan in the front and a 5 1/4 inch bay, which is kind of rare nowadays, but that's about it. So we're gonna give it half a point on that note, and I feel like a half a point isn't getting very aggressive. It could have done a lot better. So on that note, it got a 7.5 out of 20. Now I would say that's a fail. Anything under a 10, I feel like is a fail. So this gets a big fat F in my opinion. But it serves its purpose. Like I said, it's an inexpensive case. It looks different and unique. So hopefully it helps anybody looking at this case. And yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and keep your eye out for more case benchmarking from Gamers Media Wire. We really appreciate you guys watching that. Thank you. Have a good night.